Now, I'm not sure, I think I may not be being introduced, so I'm going to introduce myself. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Les Robinson. I live in Wollongong, in New South Wales, with my darling wife and my 10-year-old son, and 5 chickens and 3 budgies. At least that's how many people live on that time. And our favourite things to do are bushwalking and snorkeling, and anything to do with plants and living, breathing things. And one thing I do is I'm really interested in how change occurs, how we do change. And I spend a lot of time training people about that. But also, for the past 10 years or so, I've been working with the Landcare movement on the interesting problem of how we revitalise groups and throw that energy back into them that was there at the beginning. So that's the purpose of this little workshop. But can I begin by just doing something a little bit different? Would that be okay? And that is, I think we need a hymn. So here we go. Here it is here. Can you all please be upstanding? Now, can you repeat after me for the words of God Save the Queen, or possibly King? 1, 2, 3. God save these trees we plant, and to all nature grant sunshine and rain. Let not their branches fade, save us from axe and spade. Save them for joy and shade, guarding the plain. Second verse. Lord of the earth and seas, prosper our planted trees. Save with thy might. Save us from indolence, waste and improvidence, and in thy excellence lead us aright. Well done, everybody. Beautiful. That is from the opening ceremony of an effort in Sydney to revegetate Ball's Headland, which was a completely denuded headland jutting into Sydney Harbour. And this is about 1931 that they did this. In fact, that's Billy Hughes, the former Prime Minister there. And you can walk along that now and you would not have a clue it was anything other than pristine bushland forever. So they did a pretty good job. They started off a pretty good job way back then. So now, I've got a question. How many of you have ever, I think about when we break our schedules, our weekends are quite busy, our weeknights are quite busy, we're always doing things, we already know what they are, we're well in advance, it's all a bit of a habit, what we do with our time. But sometimes we break that schedule, we do something completely different that wasn't on the schedule. Can any of you, I want you to think of in the last 6 months, what was the time that you broke something that was on the schedule that wasn't an emergency, that your boss didn't make you do and the tax department didn't make you do? Some other thing that was quite voluntary that you broke your regular schedule for. Can you all just think of what it was? All got something? Okay. How many of them did it involve food?
Always.
Food? Okay. Drink. Food or drink? What about, did it involve friends or people who you feel like hanging out with? Was it in a nice place? Was there a bit of a purpose to it? An important purpose? Okay, that's like 100% altogether, good. So, interesting formula, isn't it? Nice food, nice place, people we feel like hanging out with, and an important purpose. That's a formula worth keeping in mind if we're trying to get people to do something they haven't done, or start doing something they haven't done for a while, like come along to a meeting. So, what I want to do now is run a little event with you, and the setup for it is that how many of you are in Landcare groups? Excellent, good. So your groups meet.
No, I volunteered with them, but not.
So how many of you are in volunteer groups? Everyone's in a volunteer group of some sort. Good. So our volunteer groups get a bit stuck in the mud, don't they? they start doing the same thing again and again and again and again and again. And after a while, some of our members just kind of wander off. Of course, there was something more interesting on TV that night. So that is the purpose of today, of this evening, how we do something about that. When our people come together and we have a chance to have some fun with them, to facilitate something with them. Who's ever facilitated something, right? You kind of just means leading a discussion or posing a discussion. It's exactly the same as holding a dinner party, hosting a dinner party. You just start the discussion. So if we have a chance to start some discussions, that could lead to the revitalisation of our groups and the injection of more energy into them and more people into them. Would that be a good thing? Good. So let's see. What's some tricks we could do when we're meeting with people to do that? That's what I want to work on with you today. Now, because passion matters a lot, can I give you all a little mission to do? Can you please stand up, find someone who you don't know, and share with them a passion that you have? Please share a passion with someone who you don't know. It's got to be legal. Now, okay. So now I'm going to show you a slideshow that will not make any sense, and you'll think I've lost the plot and it's not related to Landcare at all. But just kind of just let it happen to you. I think there could be madness to my method. So just have a look at this. I want you to think about the person who designed this, who created it. What do you think that person was passionate about?
Outdoors.
The outdoors, good. Yep, tell me more.
Mountaineering, climbing.
Yep, good. Yep, and keeping dry. So they want to be outdoors, but they really want to stay dry, and they feel so passionate about both those things. They innovated a whole new technology. Good on them. What do you think this person was passionate about? Who made this? Birdies, darling little birdies, and what else?
Woodwork.
Yeah, because that's actually a fine piece of woodwork, isn't it? It's lovely, and it's not easy to make. That's how you use it, by the way. Isn't that sweet? So, what about this person? What do you think they were passionate about? Birdies, good, and what else?
Ventilation.
Good, and what else? Clay, good, clay making and ceramics. Because it's not easy to do that. They did a lovely job, so they must be passionate about their skill, about their craft. So they put two passions together. Now I've got to explain, this is ginkgo leaf-shaped post-it note paper. What do you think this person was passionate about? Good, about stationery, excellent. That person just loves to hang around office works. Good, so stationery and? Nature, the shapes of nature. So you put together a passion for stationery, a passion for nature, shapes of nature, and look what happens. A whole new thing. Now what about this person? What do you think? I've got to explain, these are alfalfa sprouts. What do you think they were passionate about?
Fresh food.
Fresh food? Jewellery? Yeah, yes. It's, yeah, kind of passionate about jewellery and bodily adornment, but also about, health food, perhaps. Now what about this person? What do you think they were passionate about? Yeah, good, yes, family bonding, good. And what else? Staying warm, and what else?
Fashion.
And?
Children.
And? What's that movie? Alien? The movie Alien? Okay. Good, and not afraid to freak out the neighbours. And now I've got to explain, this is a device that charges your mobile phone while you bicycle along. So what do you think this person was passionate about? About what? Technology, good, yeah, about?
Innovations.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, those three things about passionate about mobile telephony, passionate about sustainability, and passionate about cycling. So there's three passions that got mashed together to make a whole new piece of technology. Now I've got to explain, this is a combination spirit level and perfume dispenser that you use like this. So what do you think this person was passionate about?
Actually, the spirit level.
It's actually a very practical little device, isn't it? If you're ever building inside a cupboard, you can't fit a whole spirit level in, but you can put your perfume dispenser in instead. So I guess they're concerned about bodily, about smelling nice, and about carpentry. What about this one? Their darling little doggy and those brilliant little caravans. And then this one here? That's just wrong, isn't it? Okay, now here's a little story that taught me something about the way, what excites groups. And this is a group I was part of down the south coast of New South Wales. And there were about 13 people turned up for the first picnic to launch the Bailey's Island Bush Care Group. And we were going to resuscitate a few hectares of degraded swamp mahogany forest. And so that happened, and people got together. But then for the next 18 months, there were fewer people until there were just 3 people working away on the site. And then about 18 months later, a naughty little swamp wallaby got into the enclosure and started eating all the new leaves of the swamp mahoganies. That by this stage were about that high. And so a sign appeared in the local newsagent that said, "Come to the Wallaby Begone Day." And 30 people came to the Wallaby Begone Day. And they chased the wallaby out, and then they did all the usual things that they do when they have, working bees. So I'm thinking, why is a working bee so uninteresting, but a Wallaby Begone Day is really so exciting that twice as many people turned up than have ever turned up before to any of their meetings? Why are they different? Wallaby Begone Day must be causing something different to happen in the minds of people that read it compared to what happens in the minds of people who read Working Bee. So I just put that aside and thought about that for a while, about what might be a secret. By the way, if you lived in, this is a nice mash-up here. This is, if you lived in Wagga Wagga in the noughties, and you were a 20 or 30 something, you would have gone to one of these things called Dance Plant, which was a combination Landcare and rave party. And so all the 20 or 30 somethings would go out onto a property somewhere and they'd work all afternoon. Then they'd camp out together and play music and have fires and dance and show movies. And all sleep out together. So it was the thing to do. That's interesting, isn't it? Like Landcare by itself is only this interesting, but Landcare combined with rave party appears to be this interesting for a group of people who don't normally participate. Now, what about this? What do you think is being mashed up here? It's a mash-up of bicycling and good, and exhibitionism. Yes, good. What's being mashed here? I've got to explain. This is a music festival that's powered by bicycles. So what's being mashed up here? Cycling and music and sustainability. Good. Energy saving. Good. And this is, of course, a bicycle fashion show. This is bicycle polo, which is a real thing. This is a bicycle combination of bicycle engineering and monumental architecture. What about this guy here? Look what he's designed. What do you think he was really motivated by? Security. He's a really good engineering, bicycling and security. And look what he made. These people here love their pianos, but they also love parades. So they found a way to do both things at once. And of course, this could only happen in Germany. The beer bicycle, which you use in the following manner. So what's going on here? That passions that people have are being mashed together and wholly new innovations are popping out of the space. So I'm going to give you a little challenge now. Can you, everyone be standing up please, find someone you haven't spoken to yet. And here is your mission, and that is, I want you to ask that person about their passions that they really and truly have. Not pretend passions, but they're actual real legal passions that you can admit in public. Real passions that you have. And then I want you to help them explore what it would be like if they mashed that passion into their volunteer work. What would it look like if you mashed that passion into their volunteer activity? What would that result in? That's my mission to you right now. For the next 5 minutes, over to you. Heard. So, who heard an interesting idea? Who heard? There was a lot of talk. A lot of talk. Must have been some cool ideas. I saw you guys having a fabulous time. What ideas did you share?
We did not have any good ideas.
Did no? What's the big laugh?
Well, I enjoy art and enjoy writing. So I don't know, your dance party, and we were going to have a day out planting, and then we did the art and all the creative writing, and then display it somewhere.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
beautiful.
I did like the idea of drinking though, turning the dance plant thing. I feel like I've missed out on a really good time, and so I want to bring that back.
Love writing, drinking, and planting together.
Yeah, or we just drop the writing and just do the drinking.
Good one. Okay, great.
We drop the planting as well and just do the drinking.
Okay, good. All right. Great. Thank you. Yeah. Who else heard something? What did you guys share?
Oh.
Don't be shy.
So we had a few different passions: Lego, gardening, food, which I feel like all those things are really versatile, including in volunteer route, whether the group's doing gardening out in nature or helping out in the nursery, or having groups with kids doing Lego and maybe old people doing Lego, and intergenerational Lego building and creating, and workshops to express your planning through Lego.
That's a great idea. Good one. Okay. Yeah, young people. That's a good. What would cause young people to want to come along to a Landcare group? If it somehow involved Lego at the same time. It's a great idea. Don't lose it. What did you?
Yeah, we can have a talk here.
What did you guys share?
So Mick was really interested with the Landcare group, but also with mountain bike riding. And sometimes they are groups that don't necessarily get along together. And so we thought maybe there could be something about a barbecue that brought everyone together, and they could plan, sort of dedicate a particular trail to mountain bike riding. And then the two groups could organise and plan that together, and then it could be used. So try and stop some of the other trails that can stay a little bit more natural, and just really put some effort into mountain bike trails.
Yeah.
Good one. Okay.
And then also, along with that as well, as a side thing to bring people together, we could get sort of Landcare people trying out mountain bike riding almost and seeing what that's like. And then we could get the mountain bikers out weeding or doing regeneration work. Yeah, so do like together a bit of a...
Like reading Olympics, so they could both have a go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just a bit of a mix up, so...
That's a great idea. Good one, thank you. Yeah, because lots of young people are interested in mountain biking, so mashing them together, you increase the number of people who might be interested, so good work. Yeah. Who else heard an interesting idea? What were you guys laughing about?
Well, we had very similar, like our passions very similar, except, but I guess if I took sort of nature as the main one, then I'd say restoring cars and motorbikes is probably the other one that I can't. That's a pretty match.
Talked about a bit of a rally, but we'd need to incorporate a barbecue,
Yeah.
a bit of a get-together, I think,
Yeah.
at some
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a bush rally that involves planting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because people just come to wearing cars doesn't mean they don't love nature and they want to spend time in nature. So they need to go somewhere and drink beer when they get there,
Yeah.
I suppose. And then, great idea. Now I've got time for one more. Who is part of heard the story, but they're kind of a bit shy. But if they know if it doesn't come out, they'll feel a bit disappointed.
Yeah, so Nat's passion was bush foods, and so we were talking about how can we get bush foods incorporated into either the Landcare group or in her farming business. So yeah, we didn't really flesh it out more because then we jumped to me a bit prematurely, I think. So my interest was poetry, so I guess, yeah, that can be interwoven in a few places.
Easily be interwoven. Good. All right. Good work, everyone. Thank you. That was great. I'm just going to share a couple of ideas that have come from previous events. And one is tea in the trees, where you do Landcare, but you also make tea flavoured from plants that you pick. So it's combining bush tucker and Landcare. What about Coffee Lovers Bush Care Group? That's mine. Actually, I want to be I want to be in the coffee and chocolate lovers, Spanish learning, child-friendly bush care group, Landcare group. That would be the group I would never miss a meeting of, because it's got everything. What about Le Bush Care, where you practice your French at the same time as you're weeding and planting? Or Buzz Care. Buzz Care is land care, but with a focus on rehoming native bees. And in fact, there is a group that does that up the north coast of New South Wales. Master Chef fans go bush. Bring your own ingredients, mix in some native foods, and all have a lovely meal together afterwards. Bush yarn. Bush care plus yarn bombing. That's a thing. Bush care astronomy, bit of stargazing after our work together. Bush care and antique tools. Bush care and solar cooking. Land care and family heritage, where children are photographed with freshly planted trees so they can come back and see the trees fully grown. What about land care and Tai Chi? You know, because after all, you just get bad back from doing all that land care, and then Tai Chi or yoga is a perfect match, isn't it? Good. So those are a few ideas that have come out from doing this. A couple of others I heard of is biophilia. Biophilia, which is art by land carers in a quarry site. The Warrabinda Youth Camp in Darwin have borrowed board US Marines and get a simply enormous amount of work done quite quickly. Geocaching. Who's ever done geocaching? There's got to be some way to match geocaching with work in the bush. Fungi foray. So it's land care event with a real focus on fungi. Bush party. Actually, I did this training in northern Sydney, and all the people in the room happened to be in their 60s. They were all bush carers and land carers who were in their 60s. And during the start of the training, these two looked like tiny little Chinese kids stuck their head in the door. There were like 3 or 4 of them. They stuck their heads in the door, and I said, you're in the wrong event. So they went away, but they came back, and they wanted to be there because they were the local nature care group from the local high school. And they taught us something very interesting, which is every one of their meetings is called a party. Sometimes just what you call things makes a big difference. You know, obvious suggestion you'll meet the opposite sex there. So those are a couple of ideas that... look, who's heard of speed planting for singles? Really, seriously, it's a real thing. It's an actual thing. It's a thing. It's quite successful too. You plant a new plant with a new person every 8 minutes and everyone has lunch together. And you can't really go wrong with that, can you? They have like 120 people come to these things. And so why does this matter? Here's a little bit of relevant research. What would keep current members in Landcare? More people in my group, well, that's obvious. Different types of activities. Doing something we haven't done before that gets the interest level shooting up again. Not having to take on an executive decision, we already knew that. More direct benefits from my property, oh yeah, and not having to give as much as my time, but people only say that because it's boring. Imagine, people never say that about interesting things. And social activities, the social side of bush care, of land care, is so critical. I had a lovely quote, it was that what land care does is it rejoins the landscape by rejoining society. It brings people together. And so it really is a social organisation. It works best when it is a social organisation. Our group's secret is a history of great social secretaries. Food is the key thing. We have historic farm walks, shearing shared musicals, beach walks and barbecues. This year, we're doing hot air ballooning. What's really important is we have children come along. We have a magician in the group. Kids as young as 18 months come to plantings with their parents and have their own prizes at the AGM. So isn't that a lovely example of what makes a really successful Landcare group? It becomes a critical social part of people's lives. I will move my schedule around to get to the family barbecue at the chair's house for the AGM. Or our AGM is a whole weekend in a nice location. We get 20 to 25 people and we have food together. So, the reason these work is that they involve a passion other than just bending over and planting and weeding, because that can just get a little bit wearing as time goes by, particularly working on the same site again and again and again. And when we mash in some other thing that we really love, suddenly we've got... Imagine there was a way to combine dog lovers dog loving and Landcare. There's this many people want to do Landcare, but there's this many people want to do dog loving. If we could mash them together, wouldn't we get the simply most enormous amount of human energy involved in what we do? Our ability to contact these other great sources of human energy means we can just enormously increase the energy that we get in our work. Now, I want to, this is a much longer workshop, and that's why I'm jumping through some bits of it. I love this one here. This is, who's heard of, it's now called Intrepid Landcare. Who's heard of Intrepid Landcare? It's a thing that's spreading around Australia, and it's a real youth-focused Landcare. It's Landcare for 20-somethings. And the reason it works, apart from that it's a great chance to meet the opposite sex, is that it works like a mobile, youthful, hard yakka flying squad and social club. So it's quite different to a normal group. It goes to a different place every time, and it works at high energy. Because as you know, 20-somethings have no attention span at all and get really bored, so they need to do different things all the time. And then they all play cricket or they go swimming together, and it's a great chance to meet other people. So they've mashed together a youthful social club with Landcare. Here are some examples of Intrepid mashups. This is Gold Coast Intrepid Landcare Jungle Party, Brunswick Heads Landcare Adventure, Weeds and Waves. So they've really found a lovely way to mash things up. This is another quite different kind of mashup. This is down on Phillip Island, the Bunny Boiler Challenge. And apparently the social event on Phillip Island is Bunny Boiler Challenge, where people bring along bunnies. They compete for the best bunny dish. They all have a big meal together. Would you believe it's actually a Landcare Rabbit Control Information Night, but it doesn't look like that, does it? They have more than 100 people come to these things. And here's another one here. This is the 100 Mile Night Dinner at Armadale. I think it's Armadale or Lismore. And 100 Mile Night because all the ingredients are from within 100 miles of the area. So they hire a wool shed, and a lot of people go along to that as well. Rocks on the River. I don't know what it's about, but I'm paying attention. It's got my attention. Oh, it's music. Music and the river. The Otway Fibre and Cheese Showcase. Look how lovely it is. Food, drink, live music. Wanted, Every Man and His Dog for the 2017 Feral Animal Shoot. So it's very different to the way things are normally presented. It occurs differently in the minds of someone who sees it. Forbes Landcare Bushrangers. Not dead, but alive. Who would like to go to a wattle walk? Or a fox shoot? Or a day on the farm? Just changing the names of things makes it seem so much more attractive to people. Now, so that's one thing to do, is to sit down with your folks and probably with a few drinks and not during a normal meeting, and start a conversation about things they really care about, and suggest to them that they imagine mashing them together. What would it be like if we combined them? What would it be like if we combined knitting and Landcare? What would it be like if we combined kids and Landcare? What would it be like if we combined gourmet food and Landcare? And imagine what that would be like. And then say, why don't we experiment? Why don't we try it and see what it feels like to give it a go? And I guarantee the energy from that is enormous that we get from participating in it and our members get. And then word of mouth travels out elsewhere because we're doing something that's different. Okay, that's one thing I want to share with you. I want to share something else with you now. And this is quite a serious innovation methodology that's used by grown-up innovators who are trying to invent new desks and kettles. But we can use this to reinvent Landcare, to reinvent what our groups do. So, let me explain this to you from... Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, in these terms, here's the enemy that we face. The enemy is the standard model. It's what we've all got used to doing. And the standard model, the effect of the standard model, particularly with groups, is as we start to think, what do we do next month or the month after? For some reason, what we've done before exercises this enormous magnetism on us, and it just keeps sucking us back to things we've done before because they feel safe and familiar. Groups, if that once, doesn't take long before where people end up doing something. They might start with an interesting idea, but 20 minutes later, conversation's gone back to the boring idea again. Boring ideas have got this huge gravity or magnetism that we've got to find a way to turn off for a while so we can start to get new ideas. And the ability to do that is behind a lot of innovation, and innovation thinking and innovation practice. How can we escape from the awful gravity of the conventional wisdom? So that's what this exercise is about. Now, we're about to do something a little bit creative together. Now, if ever you're having a meeting and you want people to be creative, don't say, hey everyone, let's be creative, because it won't work. And that's because they haven't got inspired. So if we want to get people thinking creatively, we have to do two things. One is inspire them and then have a free discussion. Inspire, followed by free discussion. So never just talk about our great big new idea, but instead expose people to some really cool stuff. So what I do is, and I do this professionally a lot, I'll get on Google. And I'll spend an afternoon on Google and I'll get 20 or 30 great ideas and lovely illustrations of them, and I'll show people beforehand in the brainstorm all these great ideas, and suddenly you'll just see their faces change and they'll start to go, oh, we could do that, and oh, that's amazing, and that's really funny, and it completely changes people's minds. They start to develop optimism, and they start to see how great ideas have happened in other places. So since we're about to be creative, I want to share with you some inspiration to help us be mentally prepared to be creative. Is that okay? Can I share a little inspiration thing? Okay. This is a document that I prepared a little while ago, and out of doing this workshop a lot. It's called If Not, Then What? And so these are examples of alternative mashups or different ways of doing things in Landcare. So what could we change? Well, we could just change our name. We could change our name to, here's some examples. What about the Mud Crabs, or the Fish and Chippers, or the Willow Warriors, or the Saturday Afternoon Tea Group? Really? It's true. What about the Beer Makers Bush Club, the Big Bitu Bash, or the Coffee and Chocolate Lovers Bush Care Group? That's not one that actually exists now, but it's the one I want to join. Or we could target different kind of suspects. So green nomads. Upper Thomson Landcare in Queensland purposefully targets green nomads. Friends of Daniel Creek work with a local Buddhist church. Warrabin, the youth camp in Darwin, work with bored US Marines. Illawarra Landcare does corporate team building. Southwest Rocks Dune Care Group works with visitors to the area. And there's lots of examples of singles, nature lovers anywhere, and retirement villages. Maybe they could be called the regenerators. Youth who like to party, and children. So there's one lovely example in Landcare Valley in Sydney of a group called Bush Kids, where they really focused on what could you get kids to do. Or, if we don't meet in the usual place, where else could we meet? What about we go to a beautiful site that just needs a touch-up? What if we went to a frog habitat? What if we did a roadside nature strip? What if we were roving hands and we went to a different site every month? What about a wildcard site you only find out about the night before? Or what about a riverbank that you can only get to by canoe? Or halfway down a cliff, or somewhere way away that's really wild and remote? So what if we don't meet in the usual place? If we don't meet at the usual time, when could we meet? Maybe it could be sunrise breakfast. What about a full moon night? What about a twilight evening? What about daylight saving afternoons? Or what about a different time of day every time, just to really shake it up? Because different times are good for different people. If not the usual refreshments, what could we do? What about freshly brewed coffee and fair trade chocolate? What about bacon and eggs? What about a chocolate cake baking competition? Or sunset drinks? Or wine tasting? Or edible weeds? Or a big brew and bake-off? Or a Master Chef Land cook-off, which is actually something Macquarie Marsh's Landcare Group does. or a fine feast of foraged food. So, different refreshments to what we normally had. If not the usual things we do when we get together, could we do something a little bit different? What about a firefly barbecue, a cellar door meeting, some classical music, a Mad Hatter's tea party, a walk and talk for new members, a little bit of bee rescue, some spotlighting, weaving with weeds, making nest boxes, singing, puppetry, teddy bear's picnic, Easter egg hunt, a week-long camp out. So, could we shake it up by doing some different activities to things that we normally do? So, with all that in mind, could we just sort of just let that just sit there in our minds? And now I want to share with you a method for coming up with new ideas in quite a structured way with a team of people. Oh, there we go. So, I'll explain how this works. Step one is you have to identify the features of the standard model, the conventional model that you want to innovate. So let's take a museum as an example. Let's say we're going to innovate a museum. So let's just look at the standard model, a very standard 20th century model of a museum that we're all kind of familiar with, and every little town has one. So tell me, what is a museum? What is a museum? What is that very conventional museum? What is it? A building, very good. And what's in the building? Historical objects, otherwise known as old stuff. So it's a building with old stuff. And who decides what's in the building? A curator, good. And how do we interact with the old stuff in the building? It's behind glass. We just look at it. We read the little cards that they wrote there, and then we go to the coffee shop. That's basically that is the museum experience, isn't it? Good. So let's mash it up. If it wasn't a building, what could it be? It's just been banned. We've just been informed we have to make a museum, but it's not permitted to be any of those standard model components. What could it be? A travelling roadshow. What else could it be? An outdoor space. What else could it be? A projection. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, good. A projection museum. What else could it be? If it wasn't a building, what else could it be? Come on.
Circus tent.
A circus tent. Good. A star for that man. What else could it be? A what? A TV show. Good. On a boat. Lovely. What else could it be?
Could be a trail.
Okay, that's nice. So you've got to walk around it like an outdoor space that you've got to explore. Great. It's getting quite interesting, this museum. What else could it be? There's no wrong answer here. No answer is wrong. Whatever is on the tip of your tongue.
Art objects.
Okay.
Art.
Good, all right, yeah. Yes? What else?
Be online.
Good, it could be a virtual museum. Yeah, good.
Be on your clothes and you wear. Pick
Good.
up and wear.
Good, okay. Let's go further. Let's go just completely crazy. Good, it could be a playground. And the museum could be a museum of games on a playground that you could play in. What else could it be?
Everyone could bring something.
It could be a museum that's spontaneously created by the people who visit the museum. Okay, isn't this fun? All right. Now, if it didn't have an exhibition of old stuff in it, what could it be about? Well, we just heard it could be games, it could be art objects, it could be things we bring ourselves. What else could it be about? What are the other possibilities? A museum of memories or stories. Fabulous. What else? Museum of?
Plants.
A plant museum.
Around trails.
A trail with plants. It's like a museum. And it could be called the Museum of breathing. Of what? What was it? Oh yeah, it's also called the Botanic Gardens. Good, what else? Well, a museum that's a trail of coffee shops that you travel between. And you have plant-related experiences at each one. What else could it be in the museum? Okay, good. A museum of experiences. So you could actually go and have an experience in each one. That would be a different experience. You could follow a trail, and at each point along the trail, an experience would be guaranteed that you would have at that point. There could be maybe music or sound or colours and things, or something, food you could have at each point. So, aren't we having fun with the museum concept? If it didn't, and if it wasn't organised by curators, who could organise it? Kids. Good. Who else? And the visitors could organise it. Could be spontaneously self-organised by the people who visit the museum. Good. Who else could organise it?
A retirement village.
Okay, that would be interesting. Yeah. What else? Prisoners. Who? Prisoners. Great. What would they want to tell us? I often wonder what a museum would be like if the curators were stick insects. What would they really want us to know? I bet there's some things about their lives they really want to share. It'd be interesting to know what they were. So there's lots of possibilities, isn't there? I actually like the idea of when it's organised by kids. I think they know the answer to most things. Good. And if people didn't walk away with facts, what could they walk away with? Memories. What else?
Lies.
What?
Lies?
Lies. Walk away with lies. Oh, wow. That is so exciting. Well, you walk away and you create an amazing lie, and that's what you walk away with. Okay. It's really got me thinking now. Okay. Good one. Okay. What else could we walk away with?
You could take something, you could bring something and then leave with something else.
With something different. Yes. With something you swapped at the museum. Good. Yeah. All sorts of possibilities. So what we did then, that exercise was dependent upon banning the standard model. We said, here is a standard museum, and then we just said, we are not allowed to design the museum with any of those things anymore. We must think of other things. Do you see how much fun you can have with this? Like, it's just the most creative kind of thing. And every answer, no matter what you say, it's right. You know, okay, it's in outer space. Yeah, fine, let's think about it for a while. What would that be like? It's organised by stick insects in outer space, and they're going to share their favourite games with us. What would that be like? Good. So let's do this in a really organised way now. Now, to do this, we have got just enough time to do this in an organised way. All right, I'm going to get us in. Can I get you four? Can we put our chairs in circles? With four, I'll just let you spontaneously do it. I want the room please spontaneously organise into circles of about 4 chairs. Okay, so step 1 is, can each team please, no, we'll do that. Okay, step 1 is, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be innovating a Landcare group. We're going to reinvent a Landcare group. We're going to start with a very boring Landcare group, not yours. I know your groups are more interesting than this. These are going to be very conventional, boring Landcare groups, which we're about to reinvent. So with that in mind, step 1 is, can I get on the piece of paper down here, I want you to answer these 6 questions by just writing them down, like write answer 1, answer 2, answer 3, answer 4, just down one side of the page. So, and the questions are, where does that group meet? When does that group meet? What activities does it do when it meets? What food do they have? How do people hear about the meetings? And how are new members welcomed? So just write those down on the left side of the page in Texter. That's mission number 1. Step number 1. This is the boring group. Very conventional, traditional, straight down the line, uninteresting Landcare group. None of our groups are like this, I know. But just, now you may be thinking, you may have one in mind when you do this, but just try to think of a very boring, very, very conventional, standard model Landcare group. I'm going to give you 5 minutes for this step, for step 1. Over to you. No, don't, not yet. Just write it with Texter down the left-hand side. So there'll be like 6 different points down the left-hand side. So just each team, in fact, every team, can we please have a facilitator for each team? I think we do need to have a facilitator. Facilitator is the bossiest person in each team. You know who you are. So can the bossiest person in each team please self-identify now, and you're going to be the facilitator, and your job is just to make sure that you get to, in 5 minutes from now, you have 6 points written down. Over to you. Group identified? Yes? Yes, 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 good. Now, you know what? We have just been given really, really important news from extremely powerful sources that all of these methods are now banned. We're not allowed to do any of them anymore. Everyone signed up to a whole new kind of constitution that says Landcare no longer does any of these things. So what can we do instead? What I'm going to ask you to do now is figure out where to meet, when to meet, and all these answers to these questions. But the answer can't be what you've written down. It must be something else. And there's no wrong answer. So to do this, here's a really fun way to do things. Have we all got our, do we get our post-it notes? Everyone got post-it notes? All right. So a really fun way to do this, a really quick, efficient way, is in a silent brainstorm. What often happens when people just start talking is that one person is kind of more dominant and thinks they know the answer, so they say it, and everyone else goes, oh, I think I better shut up now because this person, they've obviously thought it all out. Or someone else will just fight with them. And so silence prevents that happening. Everyone gets their own ideas together, everyone is fair, it has an equal say. So now, in the next 5 minutes, that's right.
Timer going off.
Oh. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to ask every single one of you in complete silence to think of, let's say we're looking at where do we meet, to think of other places to meet that are not what's written down. Try to think of at least a few answers to every one. Say at least 3 different places each, not just one, but more than one option each. So you may say, oh, we'll meet in the stalagmite cave at Narracourt, or we'll meet beside the lake, or we'll meet. Think of completely different places. Do you get what's involved? For every single one of these items in complete silence. So altogether, each of you will think of at least 6 different things, but maybe more. Over to you. So let's get all the ideas we have now stuck down. And while that's happening, I'm just going to look at team number 4. Look at this. Isn't this just gorgeous? It's beautifully written. And the colours are lovely. But isn't it amazing how many ideas a small number of people can come up with when we're being quiet? If we had a brainstorm where everyone got to talk about their idea, there'd probably only be about 4 ideas in each one of these by now, because talking about ideas takes so long. Silent brainstorming is just a really effective way to get lots of ideas down quickly. And talking about them doesn't make them into better ideas. So, good work, everyone. Now, there is a flaw. Brainstorming is such a great idea to gather all the genius of a group of people down on a piece of paper really quickly. And if we do it in silence, then it's really fair too. We don't get one person or a few people dominating what happens. So now each team now has a really rich collection of ideas. But there's another flaw in the whole business of brainstorming that we need to deal with. And that is that when a group of people sit around together, all of us, whether we know it or not, are afraid of embarrassment. And the effect of that is that it means we hold ourselves back a little bit. And we're not putting down ideas that might seem a little crazy. And yet, really good ideas often start off seeming crazy and impossible. So we need a way to overcome that natural reticence that we all have because we're afraid of what other people might think about us. And here's a method to do that. I'm going to ask each team now to repeat what you just did, but with a special rule. And the rule is, the ideas that you put down should be impossible and would just never happen. So can we now repeat, we'll just spend 3 minutes on this stage, just repeat what we did now, but the things you put down now have to be impossible and they'll just never happen. No one's going to agree with this idea. It's just too crazy. It's too weird. It's just not going to happen. So can all the ideas you put down now be in that category? Over to you. I'd just like to point to team number 1 here. Oh, no, it's looking at pieces. These guys have about 50 ideas. Everyone else has got so many ideas. Fabulous. Beautiful. All right, now we have a lot of ideas. We need to sort them out. We need to sort them out and make a decision. And if we start everyone arguing about their favourite idea now, that will also take all night. So we need a way really quickly to decide on what are the top ideas. And a really cool way to do that is to prioritise with dots. Who's ever done that? Who's ever dot prioritisation? Okay, here's how it works. You take your text to pen and say this idea is, it's just one of the ideas that's written down there. So every single one of you has 10. 10 dots, 10 dots, 10 dots, 10 dots. You've got 10 dots each. This also is done in complete silence. You spend the dots as you see fit on the ideas here that you would love to see happen, and which are also practical and could occur. So you'd love to see, the important thing is you really would love them to happen, and also that they're within the realms of possibility. And the way you spend your dots is, if you love something to pieces, you can give it 3 dots. Just like that. If you don't love it to pieces, but you still think it's a good idea, give it just 1 dot. And if it's halfway between the two, give it 2 dots. So you can give these 3, 2 or 1 dots, and you have $10 to spend altogether. Dots. 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 So, over to you. Please spend your dots in complete silence as you see fit, putting down the ideas you would just love to see in practice. Can you separate them out or put a big circle around them, or otherwise identify them? In a moment, I'm going to ask each team to report on the ideas which won the most support. Now, the important thing to do when we share about these ideas is they're not commitments. They're not like absolute decisions. Yes, we are changing our group and we're going to be the group that does this. It's more like having an experiment. The question is, what are we going to experiment with? What will we try on a small scale? What will we just try in a really safe way that's not a huge commitment, that doesn't require a lot of effort or money? So what we're now going to report on are our ideas for experiments that our groups could do. So group number 1, would you like to share your experimental ideas with us? Who's going to be reporting for you?
Okay. Hello. So our meeting place, we thought the Valley Lakes at Mount Gambier, the old courthouse at the start of bushwalks. For when, we've got set morning breakfast at the Valley Lakes. We could meet every full moon or following the southeast seasons.
Right, lovely.
Activities, keep South Australia beautiful weekend. Great. Street march and a plant giveaway. Beach cleanup and a swim. Nature and art, weeding, planting 1 million in a day, and exercise and planting trees. Food, we've got snags and sake, homegrown food, bush food, and a barbecue and beer day. And where you can hear about it could be Mount Gambier Hotel banner, through the grapevine. And how we could welcome new members is we could have group hats or gloves and things, so with the logo to join everyone together. And we could have a bus tour or a dress-up day to get everyone to meet each other.
Lovely. What do you reckon, folks? What was the most exciting idea you heard there?
Pub banner.
Which one?
The pub banner.
Pub banner.
Yeah.
Great idea. What else? Anything else stick in your minds? What about snags and sake?
Sake.
That's really stood up. That's a snags and sake. The thing is that
I'm trying to work out how that goes.
it kind of doesn't matter. It's like, you just, people will be walking down the street and they'll see snags and sake, and they'll what? And they'll want to read more about it. Good work, lovely. Well done. Can we have a round of applause for Team 1? Genius, thank you. Team 2, who's going to speak for you?
Okay, for number 1, our best idea was, or our favourite idea was on the lake. We've pretty much just got one idea, one major idea for each one. But the when it happens is our best idea was, did we have something there? Breakfast. For the activities, we've got collecting bush food and kayak and boating. And for the type of food we have is local and native food and different foods from around the world. And they were, I guess that's it for our most popular ideas. Yeah.
Good, all right, thank you. Bravo. So, okay, we've got a boating theme emerging so far. That's good. So, does it sound interesting? It does. It's kind of like kayaking on the lake at breakfast. Suddenly, I'm interested, you know? I just hadn't been that interested before. I thought I knew Landcare. It was just so predictable. Now I'm hearing breakfast kayaking on the lake. That sounds interesting. Nice work. Team number 3, would you like to share your top ideas? Oh, who's going to be the spokesperson?
For meeting place, we had school assembly and pup as popular ideas. Activities included bush food harvesting, seed collecting, sharing ideas with other groups, looking at what other groups are doing in terms of getting a presentation in, and also a light projection show. For food, bush food only, and in terms of getting in contact with information out, having a newsletter, welcoming new members with a welcome package with some seeds or a Billy tea ceremony.
A Billy tea ceremony? How would that work? What do you think?
Sure.
No, I like it. Billy tea ceremony. I'm a new member. I'm getting a Billy tea ceremony. I feel quite important now. Thank you. Good work. Round of applause for Team 3. And who's the spokesperson for Team 4? Who will it be? Who's the brave one?
Okay, we didn't want to break our creativity or innovation, so none of our answers are linked to anything. So that was a group decision, wasn't it? It is now. So we thought we'd link food and nature, and we could do team building through cooking, that everybody that turns up, to introduce them to feel welcome, we'd have a onboarding process that would include having a buddy. We thought we could meet through telepathy because that sounded rather cool. That everything we do would vary to meet the group's needs. So the way we communicate would be using lots of different channels rather than just one, including telepathy, which I'd already mentioned. We could meet in a different region. We could meet midnight on a full moon. We could meet at a different place every time. And I think that's about it.
Lovely, good work. So you guys are really shaking it up. Good, I like telepathy. Actually, on a simpler level, I like everyone gets a buddy and we do cooking together. It's beautiful. So as soon as you say, seriously, you know the thing about food is, you can't talk about it without the listeners salivating. And that means that half the job of engaging them has already been done at quite a deep psychological level. So food is a really powerful thing just to, just talk about. The more we can say about it, the better. If we say, sake and snags, I'm going, oh, suddenly this whole world is opening up in my mind full of interesting things, and I haven't had, those two things have never been in the same sentence before, so you really got my attention beautifully. And then we talk about cooking. Instead of just saying cooking, we could talk about some of the things we'll cook. We'll be having rosemary and lamb sausages. Oh, and suddenly, I'm salivating. So now we really get people's attention. Food brings people together. It is the community building stuff. And people are attracted to it as well. So in fact, the more food can be built into Landcare, the better. Nice work, everybody. Good work. A little round of applause for all of us. So now what we've done is we've modelled a team discussion using some what are actually very conventional brainstorming tools with sheets of paper and post-it notes and dots. And that's something that, if you're in if you're in an organisational context like local government, you probably do all the time, and people do it a lot. It's a great way to bring ideas together and get new ideas down on the page. So we all got to practice that. We all got to practice it in a very special way, though, and that was doing it in silence. Silence really makes brainstorms work because it stops dominant ideas dominating and creates a freer atmosphere. And then we repeated it with that extra rule that the only ideas we want to hear at once that just would never happen, and suddenly people are not worrying so much about getting the right idea down and thinking a little bit more freely. So nice work, everybody. And we also created great experiments now. So the very next question in our team meetings is, which one of these do we want to have a go at next time we meet? Let's experiment. We'll just decide that in December, we're going to do something with sausages and sake. I don't know what it is, something somewhere. Perhaps a breakfast on the lake, sausages and sake. Now, everyone's noticed that. They're all thinking about it. Word of mouth is just really spreading out. And whenever we produce unexpected mashes, like sake and snags, word of mouth just expands out from that because no one's ever heard of them before in the same sentence. And they just did then, so suddenly people really pay attention to it and want to talk about it and laugh about it and try to understand what it is. So the ability just to mash together words is fantastic to spread messages. We could talk about, working bee until we turn blue in the face, but if you talk about sausages, snags and sakis, bang, it's just going to spread really well. Thank you, everyone. So we've had quite a bit of fun together in this workshop so far. We've looked at 2 different ways that we could sit down with our groups and use just group facilitation to come up with new ideas, to add zest and revitalise the work we do. What we haven't done to revitalise our groups is to talk people into joining. What happens when someone tries to talk you into something? When was the last time you got talked into something? Long time. It's very, very reluctant. We are very reluctant about being talked into stuff. And that's because it feels like pressure. Someone's pressuring us. They're arguing with us. They're giving us reasons. I saw downstairs on some of the posters down there about, fox protection. List of reasons. We should do fox baiting for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. These things, that's not really what inspires people. Logic and reasons are not what does it. And so the thing, instead of arguing with people, instead we excite and inspire people. It's a way better way to influence people and to get messages out. So I hope that is a bit useful. This evening, we're going to be talking in a lot more detail about the way we do practice change and behaviour change. And some of the thinking that we've done now will be helpful for that. There'll be a whole lot more that we think about at that point. I'm going to conclude our workshop by going around the room and inviting each of you to have a final word about whatever occurs to you today. It's a chance to you to say anything about revitalising Landcare groups and what might be involved. And also, I'd be really keen to hear about any cool ideas that you've heard about groups doing that might inspire the rest of us. So would that be okay? Yeah? So.
Okay, well, I think it's just opened up my eyes to, just, I guess, looking outside the square, really. And I think I really like some of the ideas we've mentioned down here. Definitely, especially with the meeting places and again, around the food. So, not just doing the same old thing with that as well. So that's probably what I've taken home. Thank you.
I think the power of language, so switching from working bee, where people instantly think of sweating in the sun, pulling out weeds, to something, I don't know, a cleanup, or when it's food related or fungi hunting or, something like that. So doesn't even sound really like work. So I think being conscious of that and making it exciting, and focusing on making it social. So people don't even think about it being something that might be slightly physical, unless that's what they're into, but thinking of it something where they can network or go with people they know and making it an experience.
I'd just like to highlight a bit more walking the southeast seasons, and so this is a seasonal calendar that's based on our Aboriginal culture in the southeast, where Aboriginal people have identified 6 seasons, and so we're finding that's a really interesting and useful tool for encouraging people to get together and actually go walking and see those things in that particular season based on the Aboriginal calendar. Yep.
So I've got these not old, just a bit stale community forums, and I've got lots of ideas now for making them a little bit more interesting and hopefully getting some different people.
So I'm not part of any volunteer groups because I always picture them being the boring model that we actually talked about, and so it kind of gives me an idea of like looking out for these groups because they must exist that are doing these ideas that you're pushing or that you're telling us about. So it kind of excites me that if these groups exist that maybe I can find one and get into it.
Fantastic, good.
Yes, I really like a lot of the ideas that have thrown up today, and certainly encourage my group to do things in a different way, like, getting out the lake and kayaking, and, we can pull out weeds from a boat. We don't have to do it from the land. And, engaging with food and renaming things. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, Les, I think I had tried some of your techniques before in our Landcare group. They weren't quite ready for it. So we've reverted back, but the next thing is, how do we, try again? Yeah.
And we can't impose ideas on people. And that's why a method like this, it's their ideas. When we're not imposing ideas on them, rather they put their ideas down and then they saw their ideas get dots. And it creates a very different feeling. If we think, oh, right, it's going to be sake and snags, and we go and tell our group it's going to be sake and snags, they're going to say, no, it's not. That's just because that's how people are. But then if we just act as facilitators, it's much more gentle, and it sounds like their idea. In fact, it is their idea in the end. Yeah, it's more about process than ideas. If we want good outcomes, let's focus on the process of how to get them, not what the good idea is, because if it's just our idea, it won't catch on.
I think the process made me realise how bland my current group is doing. We actually started modelling mine as the community centre last Thursday of each month meeting, all of that. But I love the idea of actually, getting my group now to sit down and be creative and think about what can we do differently, because I think we're all in the same boat. Like, this is something we've brought up multiple times, where else could we meet? So now I actually think I'll sit down and do an activity like this with them.
Cool. Now, don't forget, before we do these activities to inspire people, that just get on the internet and find a YouTube video or through the show, or even that document I showed you before, those examples, that you can download it from our website and just show it to them. That means they're kind of excited and they're optimistic. So always have the inspire phase before the brainstorm phase, and it makes all the difference.
My takeaway is that I work with the Sporting Association. I've got a really big voice. So I work with the Sporting Association, and they're really tired. So lots of these practices or this process would be really great for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So not just Landcare.
I don't. If you've ever spoken to a really religious person and they're like, say, the Mormons knocking your door or something, and I always feel like it's like when they talk to you, it's like you don't understand what what you're missing out on, basically. And I feel like with nature like that I sort of, when you're out there and it's just and you go back to the same place and see it over time, the different things that are flowering, and there's, at the moment, sort of Blair National Park near home, and it's just perfection. Like it's just, I can't think of anywhere I'd rather be. So, and Landcare is often that it's about your responsibilities and what you have to give for it. But I mean, I really, I feel like I really take from it, and I don't know how to sort of get that message out there, like the Mormons that don't knock on my door and try very unsuccessful with my selling me, their version of religion. But it's and I just wish I was better at doing that. But I was going to say we work with kids and through the local school and that, and I always say to them, we have our every Friday eco club, and we go to the school and there's a patch of grey box woodland at the back of the school, and I say to them, okay, what was it like last week? What do you remember from last week that was in flower, or what was it from last week? what's this week? Because they're going to ask you, and just trying to really observe that, because it's a real, that's where you get, for me, that's where the real enjoyment. And then when you see the little things like, orchids that, you touch it and then it sort of triggers it or whatever else, like the kids can, really switch on with that. So it's, but it's, being out there and enjoying it. So, yeah.
So, Craig, share your inspirations. No, just tell people about something you experienced. That's not the same as talking them into it. It's the most powerful thing we can do is to just say, I just have to tell you, today I was out on the box woodland and I saw this amazing little orchid. And it's your body language that does the communicating. No. As long as you don't do it for like half an hour at a time, if you just sort of do it in nice little bite-sized chunks, it's that really does excite people, because people can see you're excited and they see your body language and they say, I wish I was Craig. Of course, look how excited Craig is, and I want some of what Craig's on. And so, it really is powerful when you do that. But then you can't say, and therefore you should come along to my group. No, don't do that. But just inspire is really good, because that stays with people. Yeah. Thank you. Mick.
Cool. So I reckon this workshop has definitely inspired me a lot, especially about particularly this reinvention activity, getting potentially some 12-year-old kids from a suburban area to actually get interested into Landcare, because sometimes kids of that age I've experienced to be a very, very stubborn lot of people who really all they care about at the moment is probably video games, sports, and really catching up with their friends. So, and it's just given me all of this reinvention. I can think of so many ways I can combine all of the things that people in my area enjoy to get them to come along to Landcare groups and really get involved in all the activities that we do and make it exciting. So.
Good work, Mick.
I'm assuming doing takeaways, because I had to sneak out for a minute. Mine's probably not a takeaway, it's more a validation. So I'm a process facilitator by trade, and so I'm extremely passionate about facilitation, and with my magic wand I'd love everyone in the whole world to learn facilitation techniques through uni, through their clubs, through everything, because when we work with people, these tools are so powerful. So thank you for sprinkling your little bit of magic.
Thank you. Well, I live on an Aboriginal community, Point Pearce, and we've never had much to do with any Landcare groups. We've got an IPA, the Indigenous Protective Area, which a couple of rangers work, and we do our own seed collecting and weed control and all that. But at the end of the day, like, second time I've been to a Landcare meetings, one in Clare and this one here, but I think with our mob is just about how do we all come together on the same page to work together, like all your mob works on different Aboriginal country, our mob, and how do we all fit in together and just work on the same page just to get the same questions and the right answers for a better future, for like these young fellas to grow up in, it's about, being working together and helping each other, because a lot of times the door is shut on us in a lot of areas, and we as traditional owners, we don't have all the answers, but majority of a lot of stuff that you do, and we've been on that path for a long time without any acknowledgement.
Thank you,
Edward. I guess I'm inspired, and particularly what you've just said, Eddie, to re-engage and consider how we invite people and make people feel included.
And my first step would be to invite Anika's Landcare group maybe to meet on our property.
I think I am a bit focused on outcomes, and so this is really helping me to look at more of the social side of things and perhaps not be looking for just getting people to do stuff or getting work done, but to actually make it more of a fun group rather than just focused on getting, you know, weeds out of the ground or plants in the ground. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I hope there's been a little something that we could take away from today. Just, I think the thing is not to worry about what it is, but sleep on it. See what pops up into our minds. What's still there tomorrow that we can carry forward. So on my website is that document that might be useful with those ideas from all sorts of other Landcare groups, so feel free to have a look at that. And thanks a lot, folks. It was wonderful.